So guys, this is Vrinda here, and today we will be discussing about big data and Hadoop. So it would be nice if you guys can introduce yourselves before we start the session. So quick responses, guys. If you could introduce yourself before we start the session. Jagdish says, I'm Jagdish. I have 4 years experience on Java J2E. Perfect. This is a really good thing. We have an experienced person here. Thank you so much, Jagdish. Ankit says, this is Ankit. I have completed my BE in computers this year. Thank you so much, Ankit. Prateek says, Prateek here, software engineer intern. Perfect. Thank you so much. So Pratyush, can you hear me? We see that Pratyush has joined us right now. So Ankit, Ankur, okay, we've got responses from Ankit. Ankur, can you hear me? If yes, you can please respond. Okay, Pratyush says, hi, I'm Pratyush pursuing my MCA. Perfect, thank you so much. Kutesh says, I'm Kutesh and I'm a fresher. Okay, perfect. So I don't think so. Ankur is replying. Ankur, can you hear me? I guess in the interest of the class, we should start the session. So the topic we will be looking on in this module today is what is big data, different kinds of big data global market, Hadoop global job trends, and what is Hadoop. So now guys, what is big data? When I talk about big data is a collection of huge amount of data that is large or complex to process using on-hand database management tools or traditional data processing applications like RDBMS, DBMS or SQL files. Now guys, I would want to draw your attention towards the graph in front of you, this bar graph, which shows the percentage growth being 80% from 2005 to 2014. Now we have seen that normally the data size is of like megabyte, gigabyte. For example, of considering video, which is a few gigabyte, an audio file, which is of a few MB. But today the size is of zettabyte. And from the other diagram to the right hand side of the slide, we can see that a zettabyte is 1000 into 1000 into 1000 terabyte. And guys, it is certainly a large amount of data. So this is what big data is. I hope this definition is clear with you. If yes, we can move forward, please. You can please respond so that we can move forward. Quick responses, guys. Okay, Jagdish says yes, thank you. Okay, there's a yes from Ankit, Pratyush and Kutesh. Thank you, everybody. Okay, so we have a question from Prateek. He says that, so where do we store big data? Prateek, your question will be answered very soon. As of now, you just need to know the definition of big data. We'll be talking about it very soon in the slides as we move forward. I hope it is okay. Okay, thank you so much. So moving forward to the next slide, that is types of big data. Now guys, types of big data, there are 3 types of big data, that is structured data, unstructured data and semi-structured data. Now the structured data, when I would want to draw your attention towards the slide, you see that this diagram, this seemed to be quite familiar. This type of data, you're dealing with this type of data as of now. For example, in RDBMS, DBMS and all. So this is structured data. the database which have information stored in them in such a way that it can be readily used. Data is stored in tables in form of rows and columns, and a perfect example for data stored in RDBMS. So this is a structured data. Now talking about the unstructured data. This is the variety of data. The data can be PDF files, audio files, video files, images, and all sorts of data that comes from the social networking sites. Now, when I talk about social networking sites, I consider FB, that is Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, other sites, and this data can be in the form of likes, posts, comments, then uploading of photos, and every sort of this data comes under the unstructured data. Now moving forward to the third one, that is the semi-structured data. Now when I talk about the semi-structured data, I would want to draw your attention here. I want you to see this. This is the parent node, and under this we have a child node. Further, under this we have another child node. So the question might come to your mind that why is it called a semi-structured data? Now, since they are organized in a manner but not so organized that they can be stored in databases. Now, this is of the form, for example, XML file, where there is a parent node and then a child node inside them. So actually, a traditional system, that is the RDBMS, this deals with only structured data. But lately, there was seen that there was a need to deal with the structured, unstructured, and the semi-structured data. So there was a need of technology which dealt with all three of them. So that is why this need had to be fulfilled, because reason being, today approximately 80% of data is either semi-structured or unstructured, which cannot be held by, or which cannot be dealt in RDBMS. So there's a question, Ankit asks, please explain semi-structure once again. Sure, Ankit, I'll explain semi-structured once again. Now, please see this diagram. We have this parent node. This is called the parent node. I want you to consider a file, an HTML file. You have tags in them, or consider a JSON format. We have a parent node, and under them we have the child node. It may further have child nodes, and a file like this or a formation like this comes under the semi-structured data. Example, an HTML file. It has a tag, it has a parent tag, then it has child tags. Now this sort of data, this data that comes in this sort or a JSON format, this is called a semi-structured data. I hope this is okay with you. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Ankit. So this was about the types of big data. Now, I hope the slide is clear with you. If yes, you can please type to me so that we can move forward. In case of any difficulty, you can please write so that your questions can be answered. Okay, Ankit, Pratik, Kutesh, Jagdish say yes. Ankit says yes, thank you. So, I didn't get any response from Pratyush. Okay, he says yes as well. Perfect. Moving forward, great guys. So, moving forward, I go to the 4 V's of big data, which were defined by IBM. Now, talking about the 4 V's, that is volume, variety, veracity, and velocity. Now, when I talk about volume, actually the data which was made earlier came from only the employees of the organization. But today data comes from employees, partners, customers, and from every place. Now a file, consider a file, it might be a few KB. An audio file might be a few MB. And a video file might be a few GB. Now imagine the amount of data that we might have if we put 1,000 files together. So this is volume. Now it has been predicted that by 2020, 40 zettabytes of data will be created, which will be 300 times more than the data that was made in 2005. So this is volume, that is scale of data. Moving to the next one, that is variety. When I talk about variety, I talk about, actually earlier data came from the Excel tables in the form of rows and columns. But today, data is in data comes from all, for example, the social networking sites, FB, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and in forms of text, photos, audios, videos, web pages, sensor data, documents, SMSs, uploading of pictures. Everything is included in the big data. So this is variety. So it has been seen that approximately 400 million tweets are sent per day from 200 million active users on Twitter. So this is variety, that is different forms of data. Moving to the third V, that is veracity, that is the uncertainty of data. Now, when I talk about uncertainty of data, it means the data which is not certain, which does not have any meaning. Considering now when I log on to Facebook and I write good, now good is actually spelled as GWD. But if I write, but normally today in shorthand we write it as GUD. Now GUD has no meaning of its own, but it is still accepted and is a part of big data. So this is uncertain data, but it is still accepted. So this is about the veracity of data. Similarly, good morning is normally in shorthand, it is written as GM. Now GM has no meaning in any English dictionary, but still it is accepted because still being an uncertain data, it is accepted and is a part of big data. Moving to the fourth one, that is velocity. Now when I talk about velocity, it is analyzing the streaming data. That is how fast the data is processed. Now, for example, when I talk about FB, Facebook, it has 1 billion active customers which produce, or FB produces approximately 70,000 MB of data in 1 minute. Now, you can just think how much data is generated, then it is processed, then we work on it. So this is velocity of data, how fast the data is processed. Another example can be the New York Stock Exchange. That is the biggest stock exchange in this world. It generates or captures, then also deals with 1 terabyte of data in each trading session. So you can just imagine how much fast the data has to be processed. So this is about the velocity, that is analyzing the streaming data. So this was about the 4 V's of big data. I hope it is clear with you. If yes, we can move forward to the next slide. If in case of any doubts, you can please type so that your queries can be answered. Okay, Jagdish, Ankit and Kutesh say yes. Perfect, thank you. So, quick responses, guys. Pratush says yes as well. Ankita says yeah. Okay. Ankita has a question. She asks, can you repeat variety again? Sure. Ankita, talking about variety. Now variety is yeah, I'm sorry. When I talk about variety is data of any form. Now, earlier the data came only from the Excel tables in the form of rows and columns. But today, the data is coming from, for example, in the form of photos, videos, audios, web pages, groups, sensor data, documents, SMSs, everywhere. Also, the social networking sites are generating a lot of data. Then, for example, from FB, in the form of posts, likes, comments, you make groups there, then uploading of photos, then making, writing, tweeting on Twitter. So this is the variety, different forms of data. There is no data which is, I won't say there is no data, but there is different form. There is less data which is in form of rows and columns, and more data which is unstructured and semi-structured. So it is variety of data. So I hope this answers your question, Ankita. quick responses, please. Yeah, Ankita says she's okay. Ankit has a question here. He asks, what is the difference between volume and veracity? Ankit, volume is different and veracity is different. I'll tell you how. Now, volume is amount of data. For example, it is expected that 40 zettabyte of data will be created by 2020. It is amount of data. Also, I gave you an example of FB. FB creates 70,000 MB of data in 1 minute. Now, this is amount of data. But when I talk about veracity, veracity means what data is coming. As in, this data has a meaning, it has no meaning, or what? For example, this veracity, according to this veracity, if I write GUD, GOOD is the actual meaning of good. No English dictionary will have GUD as any meaning of GUD, but it is still accepted and is a part of big data. This is veracity. The thing GUD, the word GUD has no meaning, still it is accepted. So this is veracity. I hope this answers your question, Ankit. Okay, perfect. So I hope it is okay. Subhash seems to have joined us. Subhash, can you hear me? If yes, you can please write. And Ankur, if you can hear me, you can please write. Maybe in the interest of class, I should move forward. Okay, so moving to the sources of big data. Sources of big data are, the first one is social media and networks. The second one being mobile devices. The third one is sensor technology and networks. And the fourth one is scientific instruments. Now, talking about the first one, that is social media and network. As we discussed already, the social media network including Facebook, then LinkedIn, YouTube, then Twitter, Google Plus, all this is sources of big data. The the big data is in the form of likes, comments, posts, check-ins, uploads, making pages, making groups. This is all big data. So this social media networks is certainly a source of big data. Moving to the second one, that is the mobile devices. Now, mobile devices, guys, mobile devices have come a long way from just being an instrument that is used to call or message. Now, this has become a super device which can track a user, and this tracking can generate a lot of data. So thus mobile devices is certainly a source of big data. Now, moving to the third one, that is sensor technology and network. Now, in this one, there's sending of a signal and then a receiving of a signal. Then this signal is analyzed in real time, and all this generates a lot of data. I'll give you an example, that is considering sonar, that is sound navigation and ranging. This technique uses sound to navigate, communicate, or detect an object under the surface or on the surface of water. Now, this detection, navigation, communicating, this generates a lot of data. So that is the sensor technology and network is certainly a source of big data. Now, moving to the fourth one, that is scientific instruments. Now, the scientific instruments, I'll give you an example. A satellite, take a satellite which is revolving around the earth, is programmed to take pictures after an interval of 1 minute for an year. So now we can imagine that the amount of data that will be produced if it is taking pictures after 1 minute for an year. So it is certainly a large amount of data, and not only the pictures have to be analyzed, there's also a need, it is not only important to store the picture but also to analyze this picture. So this being a source of big data. So this was about the sources of big data. Kotesh has a question here. Can you please explain sensor technologies again? Yeah, sure, no problem. I'll go with it. Okay, when I talk about sensor technologies, I told you about sound navigation and ranging, that is sonar. Sonar is a technology where we use a particular, let us say a signal is taken. Now this signal is sent, it is received again, and this signal is used, this received signal is analyzed to navigate, communicate and deal with or detect a particular object on the surface or under the surface. If you have seen the self-driven cars, that are the automated cars, they use sensor technologies as well. So what they do is they detect, you don't have to drive them, they're automated. So they detect the presence of the objects, maybe object or other cars around it, and then they take turns or move accordingly. So you might imagine how much data might they be producing when they do this. So this is certainly a source of big data. I hope this answers your question, Kutesh. Okay, perfect. He says okay. So now this was about the sources of big data. If this is clear with you, everybody, we'll move forward to the next one. If not, you can please write. Okay, Pratik has a question here. He asks, data supposed to be stored in bits or bytes, so why veracity is an issue? I mean, if write good or GUD good, what is the problem? So, Pratik, there is this issue, veracity issue has been considered because when this big data, if we think on a larger perspective, now big data came into picture. Why? Because of large data being produced every day. Now, this data has to be analyzed. It is important to analyze this data. The main issue of big data is that it is difficult to analyze. That is why different technologies came in to analyze this data. There is no issue if we write GOOD or GUD. It's your choice, completely your choice. But it is about veracity has been taken into consideration because this data has to be analyzed. I hope this answers your question, Pratik. Okay, perfect. So guys, if this slide is clear with you, can we move forward? I got responses from Pratik, Pratyush, so Jagdish, Kotesh, Ankit, Ankita. Can we move forward? Ankita says yes, Jagdish says yes as well. Okay, perfect. Ankit, can we move forward? Okay, so we have a yes from everybody. Moving forward to the next slide, we see where is big data used. Now the first one is product recommendations that are relevant and compelling. Example, Amazon recommending products. Now you might have seen that, for example, if you go to like an Amazon site and buy a phone from Amazon, we see that we get recommendations regarding back covers, flip covers, screen cards. Now, how does it actually happen? Actually, they analyze the data, the job trends that come from the past customers or users. For example, the phone you are buying, this some customers bought the phone as well, and in addition to that they bought some covers, mobile covers, back covers, screen cards. So that is why you are being recommended to buy this. So this is analyzing the big data. So this is a point where big data is used. Moving to the next one, that is learning why customers switch to competitors and their offers in time to counter. Example, why people use mobile portability. Now I'll give you an example here. Take two telecom networks X and Y. X has some customers X in it, and out of them 10 plan to quit X and move to Y. Now the X telecom network would want to know that why are they quitting and moving to Y, as in they would want to have the feedback from those 10 customers. Now this feedback can be in the form of a call or in a form of a particular data entry kind of a form. So we talked about that that this call is in the form of audio call, that is certainly an audio form, which is a form which is comes under the unstructured data. Now the traditional system cannot handle unstructured data, so we have to use the new system that deals with one of the types of big data. Now this data has to be analyzed so that these improvements can be made in telecom network X, so that they do not lose any more customers. So this was the second point. Moving to the third point, that is preventing fraud as it is occurring and preventing more proactively. Example, New York City. Now in New York City, the data was collected from the government servers, and all this data was collected, mined, and it was mined and analyzed. So this was done to identify any frauds or potential of the frauds that may occur in the organization. So moving forward to the fourth one, that is the Google AdWords. Now you might have seen that when you go to a particular website, you see there many ads coming up. You click to a particular ad, on a particular ad, I'm sorry, and you get more of those ads. Now why does this happen? Actually, the trend is seen. This trend, the click on a particular kinds of ad, as in how many people have clicked. For example, the website has 3 ads. So which particular ad is clicked more often, those ads are put more on that website. Those similar kinds of ads are put more on the website in order to increase the market effectively. So this was about the fourth point. This is where big data is used. Hi, Subhash seems to have joined us. Subhash, I hope you are able to listen me. Okay, so okay, anyhow, so this was where big data can be used. So I hope this is okay with you guys. If yes, we can move forward to the next slide. If not, you can please type so that your questions can be answered. Okay, Pratik and Pratyush say yes. Perfect, thank you. Quick responses, guys. Okay, Jagdish and Ankit say yes as well. Kotesh has a question. He asks, why, can you please explain this slide briefly? Okay, no problem. I'll explain it to you. This is nothing but Kotesh, they're talking about where big data is used. Now, big data is used to analyze the different trends so that in order A, not to lose the customers any further, B, to improve the market effectiveness, 3, to see any frauds that are going up, and 4, that is to recommend people buying stuff so that they can buy more stuff. Again, it is dealing with the market effectiveness. It is nothing, just telling you where big data is used. It is basically used for analysis. Hope I'm clear. Can we move forward, Kotesh, if this is clear with you? Okay, perfect. So we move forward to the next slide. Okay, now this is about the Facebook scenario. We discussed earlier, I told you that there are approximately 1 billion active users on Facebook, and on an average it generates 70,000 MB in 1 minute. Now Facebook is generating 70,000 MB in 1 minute, which means that 4.2 MB, sorry, 4.2 million MB in 1 hour, which amounts to approximately 143.3 petabyte round there. So guys, this is about just about Facebook. Facebook generates 143.3 petabytes in 1 year. So you can just imagine, if just one site is creating that much data, how much data in all would be produced by 1 year. So it is certainly a large amount of data, and this data has to be processed, managed, stored, analyzed. So Facebook scenario was just a way to tell you that one site is creating that much data, just to tell you and just to help you think that how much data can be produced over the air by all the sites and many other places. So I hope this is okay with you. If yes, we can move forward to the next slide. Okay, Ankit and Kutesh say yes. Perfect. Thank you. Prateek has a question here. So does FB use Hadoop for analysis purpose? Yeah, Prateek, yes. FB certainly uses Hadoop for analysis purpose. Rather, FB brought in Hive. When you move forward to the next slides, you'll see that FB actually brought Hive, which is again a part of Hadoop ecosystem. So as of now, the answer to your question is yes. Yes, okay. Perfect. So Ankita, is the slide clear with you? Can we move forward? Subhash, is it okay with you? Quick responses, please. Okay, I didn't get any response from Jagdish. Okay, perfect. He says yes as well. Okay, moving forward. So now this slide is about various big data technologies. I guess it's taking a bit of time to get loaded. Yeah, okay. So we look at the big data giants in this slide and think about big data. Now I would want you to see at the bottom of the slide. This gives an information about the different technologies related to big data. That is Hadoop, Hadoop MapReduce, Mahout, HBase, Cassandra. These are the different technologies for big data. There are some companies that built infrastructure on these technologies. For example, analytics, for example, Hortonworks and Cloudera for analytics infrastructure, Couchbase and Tengen for operational infrastructure, Windows Azure, Motor, Amazon Web Services for infrastructure as a service, then Oracle, Sybase, IBM for structured database infrastructure. There are other companies that build apps on these infrastructure. For example, Atiago for vertical apps, then Oracle for business intelligence app, then Dataspora for analytics and visualization apps, and so on. So this was about the big data technologies. I hope this slide is clear with you. If yes, we can please move forward to the next slide. Okay, Prateek says yes. Perfect. Quick responses, please. Subhash, Kutesh, Ankit, and Jagdish say yes. Okay. Pratyush says yes as well, and Ankita says yes as well. Okay, perfect. Great, guys. Moving forward to the next slide. Okay, we have a question from Jagdish. He asks, apps means for front end apps? Yes, yes. Certainly, Jagdish, it's about the front end apps. I hope this answers your question, Jagdish. Okay, perfect. Okay guys, so talking about big data global market. Now when I talk about big data global market, I would want you to see this pie chart. Now this pie chart shows that out of Fortune 500 companies, only 10% of the companies have implemented big data, and 90% still have to implement the big data. Now the second slide shows that in 2012, the big data growth was approximately 5 billion US dollars, and it is predicted that by 2017, the big data growth will amount to like more than 50 billion US dollars, and which is certainly a large big data growth, like more than 100% big data growth. So moving to the third diagram shows that it shows the different vacancies and the different job profiles for big data. The data scientist having 82% vacancy, and big data analyst having the least of it with only 50% vacancy, still this being a large vacancy for jobs in this time. So this is about big data global market. I hope the slide is clear with you. Guys, if yes, we can move forward to the next slide, please. Pratik and Subhash say yes. Ankit has a question here. What is the need of big data? Ankit, in the previous slides, we were talking about, we discussed about it. Need of big data is when actually whatever data that big data, first of all, is nothing. Any data is big data. Any data is big data. Now, the importance of big data and the need of big data. Actually, there is no need of big data. Big data has come out of progression. We didn't make big data. It came out, actually, I'm wrong when I say it, we didn't make it. It came out of progression. It is something which has been generated, because in this 21st century, lots of data is being generated. So need of big data is the wrong question. It's just that big data is out of progression. So I hope this answers your question, Ankit. Quick responses, please. Ankit says he didn't understand. Okay, I'll tell you in a different way. Ankit, big data, any data, I want you to consider big data being any sorts of data that comes from FB, Facebook, then LinkedIn, all your online, offline, warehousing data, every data. Now, when you say that what is the need of big data, there is no need. It is there. But the right question would be to ask, what is the need to analyze this big data? Because analysis has an answer. A thing which is already there. Big data has been created by all this thing. For example, you log on to Facebook and you chat with your friend. So you are generating data. That is a part of big data. You like something, that you like a photo of your friend, and that is a part of big data. You create a group, that is a part of big data. This is big data. We cannot say there is a need of big data. There is a need to analyze this big data. So I hope you get it now. Okay, perfect. Kotesh has a question. Ma'am, what will be the employee position for a fresher in big data? Kotesh, it would be better if you could please call us and clear your doubt regarding this, because our support team will tell you what is actually the employee position for a fresher in big data. As of now, we'll just stick to our slide. Okay. So Jagdish asked that he wants to see the previous slide once again. Okay. Okay. You have to be a bit quick, Jagdish, because we are losing time, and in the interest of the class, we have to move forward. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. So moving forward to Hadoop global job trends. Now, okay. Companies like Dell, IBM, Amazon Web Services, Cloudera, Zetaset, these all are dealing with Hadoop in order to analyze the big data. Now, I want you to see this graph on the right-hand side of the slide, which tells that by 2020, approximately 45% of the employers would be hired with Hadoop skills. So this makes approximately 17,000 employees with Hadoop skills across across these companies. So this is about the Hadoop global job trends. I hope this slide is clear with you guys. If yes, we can move forward to the next slide. Okay, Subhash has a question. What are prerequisites to learn for freshers? Okay, Subhash, actually the preconditions you'll have to call us to know that what are the preconditions for learning Hadoop and all things regarding big data. So I hope it is okay. All the prerequisites will be told to you by the support team when you call us. Okay, perfect. So I hope this is clear with you guys. So I got a yes from Subhash, Ankit, Kotesh. So Ankita, is it clear with you? Okay. So moving forward, okay, Jagdish says yes as well. Perfect. Okay, so I'll move forward to the next slide that talks about the Hadoop global job trends. Yeah, I'm sorry. Pratyush, are you there? Okay. Perfect. Moving forward to the next slide that talks about the Hadoop global job trends. Now, this shows that Hadoop professionals are among the highest paid, earning more than 1 lakh US dollar per annum. The second diagram, that is the second figure, I'm sorry, shows the demands for big data in India. This is shown in the graph with Bangalore taking a lead with 38%. So guys, this was about, till now we have talked about we've got the overview of big data, markets in big data and Hadoop, prospectus of Hadoop. So if you're clear with this, we can move to the technical aspects of big data and Hadoop. So shall we move forward to the technical aspects of big data and Hadoop? Quick responses, please. Jagdish and Ankit say yes, perfect. Subhash says he didn't understand. Okay, Subhash, what would you want so that I can repeat and you will get to know? This particular slide, do you want me to repeat it again? Quick responses, please. I didn't understand. Sorry, can you please rephrase it? I am not able to get what you're not able to understand. He says he's not able to understand the slide. Okay. Okay, I'll just brief it once again. Subhash, it's nothing but this slide as of now we've discussed, it talks about big data. Big data is any data that is big data is any data that is, like, for example, data coming from your sites, your sensor data, online data, offline data, every sort of data is big data. So This big data is of three types, that is structured data, unstructured data, and semi-structured data. RDBMS deals with only structured data, and so in order to deal with this unstructured, semi-structured data also, we felt that there was a need of a technology that dealt with it so that this data can be analyzed, because only by analyzing this data, market can be increased A, frauds can be seen B, then more marketing can be done 3, then again all sorts of things like recommendations can be done. It can be seen what trend is being followed, and recommendations can be given. So this was the use of analyzing the big data. Now when I talk about Hadoop is a technology that analyzes this big data. When I'll go to the further slides, you'll see that what Hadoop actually is. So, and other slides just tell you that what is the scope of this big data in Hadoop, nothing else. When I'll move forward to the next slides, your doubts will be cleared automatically. So as of now, is it okay if we move forward? Okay, perfect. So moving forward to the next slide, what is Hadoop? Now Hadoop was created by Dow Cutting and Mike Caffarella. Now talking about, if I talk about the definition for Hadoop, now Hadoop can be said as a fault tolerant distributed system for data storage and processing which is open sourced by Apache. Now Hadoop provides a reliable shared storage and analysis system. It is designed to scale up from a single server to thousands of machines with high degree of fault tolerance. So guys, this was about Hadoop. When we'll move forward to the next slides, we'll see what Hadoop in detail is and what are the core components, how it all got in, why was Hadoop created, what brought Hadoop in. So as of now, can we move forward to the next slide if it is clear with you? Kotesh has a question here. He asks, reliable storage in what sense? Kotesh, when I'll move forward, you'll get to know. Actually, when I talk about reliable storage, in Hadoop, replicas are created. So if there is a case that a server goes down or a data node or anything has gone corrupt or bad, there is a replica created for the cluster, and the replica can be used, so you have not to be worried about you losing your data. So this is about the reliable shared storage. Though when I'll move forward, you don't have to worry about it. When I'll move forward, your question will be answered. So is it okay? Okay, he says he's got it. So guys, shall we move forward? I got a yes from Subhash, Ankit, Kotesh. Okay, Pratyush says yes as well. Okay, Jagdish, can we move forward? Perfect. Okay, I'll move forward to the next slide, which talks about Hadoop history. Now, in 2002, Dow Cutting started with web crawler that was called Nutch. Now, do any one of you know what a web crawler is? Any vague idea about web crawler? Quick responses, please. Any idea about web crawler? Okay, Jagdish and Pratyush say no. Subhash says no as well. Kutesh says, I think we can all the data of a website. Kutesh says download all the data of the website. Not exactly Kutesh, but nice try. Thank you. No issues. I didn't get any response from Ankit. So Ankit, any idea? Okay, he says no as well. So no issues. Now, a web crawler is actually a Java program that parses through the data, analyzes this data, indexes this data according to a particular selected parameter. In simple terms, guys, we can say it is an open source web search engine. So this was created by Dow Cutting. It was named as Nudge. It was named Nudge after a meal that was his son's meal was Nudge. It was like, it has a history. So as of now, you just have to know that in 2002, dog cutting started with a web crawler which was named as Nudge. In 2003, Google describes the Google file system and publishes a paper that introduces MapReduce implementation. In 2004, dog cutting adds distributed file system and MapReduce support to Nudge. In 2006, Cutting joined Yahoo and describes the dedicated file system to turn Hadoop. In 2007, New York Times converts 4 terabytes of image archives over 100 EC2s. Now guys, when I talk about EC2, EC2 is Elastic Compute Cloud. Actually, Amazon gives servers to the users so that the users can use these servers on their own data set. So this is EC2. Kutesh has a question. He asks web crawler once again. No problem. I'll tell you. A web crawler, Kutesh, is nothing but it is written in Java. This crawler actually is a web search engine which is open sourced. Dog cutting made it. In it, it was a Java program. It parses through all the data. It is what actually a web search engine does. Parsing through the data, analyzing the data, indexing the data, which is done with a particular selected parameter. So you just have to know that it is a web search engine and it is written in Java. So I hope this answers your question, Kutesh. Okay. So we were on, so moving to in 2008, Facebook launches Hive, and in the same year, a fastest sort of a terabyte was made in 3.5 minutes, which was fastest till then. In the same year, Cloudera was founded. In 2009, Dow Cutting joined Cloudera. Fastest sort of a terabyte was made in 62 seconds, and a sort of a petabyte was made in 16.25 hours. In the same year, Hadoop Summit was organized in 2009, which had 750 attendees. It was organized in Santa Clara. So this was about Hadoop history. So guys, if you're clear with this, we can move forward to the next slide. Quick responses, please. Okay, Ankit and Kutesh say yes. Perfect. Subhash says yes as well. Pratyush says yes. It's yes from Jagdish. So Ankita, can we move forward? Yeah, hi Ankita, can we move forward? Quick responses, please. Okay. So Kutesh has a question here. He asks, what is Hive? Hive is another technology that is a part of Hadoop ecosystem. When you'll join the course, there is a proper lecture about, you'll have a proper session for Hive, and you'll get to know what Hive is when you'll see it in further. As of now, you just have to know that it is a part of Hadoop ecosystem. So I hope this answers your question, Kutesh. Okay, Ankita wants me to repeat the slide. Okay. So, okay, I'll repeat the slide. It's okay, Ankita. In this slide, in 2002, Dow Cutting started with the web crawler that was Nudge. In 2003, it's actually, Ankita, we're just talking about the Hadoop history. Now, when I talk about Hadoop history, in 2002, Nudge was made. In 2003, Google file system was made. Then, and a paper was published that introduced MapReduce implementation. In 2004, Dow cutting adds distributed file system and MapReduce support to Notch. In 2006, Cutting joined Yahoo. They described the dedicated file system to turn Hadoop. In 2007, New York Times converted 4 terabyte of image archives over 100 EC2s. In 2008, Facebook launched Hive. Hive, as I told, is a part of a Hadoop ecosystem. In the fastest sort of a terabyte was made in the same year in 3.5 minutes, and Cloudera was founded in the same year. Dow Cutting joined Cloudera in 2009, and in the same year the fastest sort for a terabyte was made in 62 seconds, and sorting of a petabyte was done in 16.25 hours. In the same year, the Hadoop Summit was organized in 2009 with 750 attendees. Ankita asks what Nutch is. Nutch is, Ankita, a web crawler. Now, a web crawler is actually a Java program which has been, which is actually, in simple terms, it is open source and it is a web search engine. It actually parses, it is an open source web search engine. It passes through all the data and analyzes the data and indexes the data according to a particular selected parameter. So this was about the Hadoop history. Okay, Subhash is asking, Hive is programming or what? Subhash, actually, it is a data warehouse. Apache Hive is a data warehouse infrastructure which has been built in Hadoop and providing data summarization queries. Yes, queries have been written, and it was developed, I told you, it was developed by Facebook. So this was about Hive. We write HiveQL, that is, while it is based on SQL, HiveQL, that is Hive query language, does not strictly follow the full SQL standard. So I hope this answers your question, guys. Okay, Kutesh asks a question. He asks, what is the difference between data warehouse, data mining, and Hadoop? Now, Kutesh, data mining means data analyzing. And Hadoop is a technology which has been, when I was talking about the different technologies, infrastructure and apps. So Hadoop is a technology that works for data analyzing. Now this is Hadoop. Now actually, when I talk about Hadoop, it is a technology which is used to analyze this data, because as we've talked about, data analyzing is important, since it is, data analyzing is certainly important. We discussed earlier, without analyzing the data, marketing won't increase and all that. So this is about Hadoop and data mining. Talking about data warehouse. Now, data warehouse in computing, a data warehouse or an enterprise warehouse is a system. It is like where the data is kept, or system used for basically data analyzing, integrating data from one or more different files and creating data warehouse, where current data is stored. So, like for management, reporting, annual, this data is used. So where the data is stored is actually a warehouse. So we call it a data warehouse. So I hope this answers your question, Kutesh. Kutesh asks, what are the techs for the, both techs are for data analyzing. So what's the difference? Hadoop when I talk about Hadoop, Kotesh, Hadoop is a technology. Data warehouse where data is stored, mining is analyzing, and Hadoop is what data mining is done on data warehousing. Nothing of it is same. All of them have their own meaning. I hope you get it. Please don't confuse data warehousing with Hadoop or data mining with data mining with Hadoop. Okay, Kotesh says he's not understood it. Okay, I'll explain it again. Data stored in a warehouse is uploaded from the operational system. All the data, for example, you consider a data center. When you will move forward with this course, you will find that data is stored in clusters. Now, cluster is where data is stored, like cluster is a combination of racks, and racks is a combination of data nodes. Now, when all this combines, a data center is made, for example, a data warehouse is made. Data warehouses store the current and the historical data in order so that data mining can be done on it. Now, what is data mining? Data mining is analyzing this data, but there has to be a technique with which we can do it, and this technique is called Hadoop. I hope now it is clear with you. Okay, Kute says yes. Okay, perfect. Jagdish asks, is Hadoop for storing data in file system or both storing and retrieving or analyzing? So, Jagdish, when we move forward with this slide, your question will be answered by yourself. You'll get to know what Hadoop actually does because we will be talking about the core components of Hadoop. So you'll get to know what it actually does. There is a storing part that is called HDFS, and there is an analyzing part that is the MapReduce function. I hope it is okay. Okay. Okay, we have a question here from Pratyush. How it supports an old type of storage system without affecting the data? How it can be transformed? I'm not able to understand your question, Pratyush. Actually, you're asking about the old data, how it has to be transformed, or you're asking how data is stored in Hadoop. If you're asking about how data is stored in Hadoop, the further slides will clear your question because as I told you, data is stored in cluster. Actually, when I talk about Hadoop, I want you to think that there is no limit, like there is a limit in RDBMS. In Hadoop, we do vertical scaling. When I talk about vertical, I'm so sorry. In Hadoop, we do horizontal scaling. When I talk about horizontal scaling, there is no limit to how much it can be increased. But in RDBMS, vertical scaling was done. Now, in vertical scaling, only there is a limited storage system. But in Hadoop, there is no limited storage system. The data center will have clusters, and these clusters can be further extended by adding nodes to it or data nodes, and certainly, yes, the racks to it. So I hope this is okay with you, Pratyush. Perfect. Okay. Kutesh has a question here. He asks, what is HDFS? Kutesh, HDFS is Hadoop Distributed File System. I'll move forward to the next slide. You'll get to know what it is actually and what is its architecture and what it does. So guys, can we move forward? Quick responses, please, everybody. Okay, Ankit, can we move forward? I have not got any response from you. Quick response, please. Okay, perfect. So guys, moving forward to the next slide, that is Hadoop core components. Now, when I talk about Hadoop core components, there are two components, that is HDFS, that is Hadoop Distributed File System, and MapReduce. Now, Hadoop distributed file system is, is a distributed file system which holds large amount of data across multiple nodes in a cluster, which is in contrast to the primitive servers which are robust and have limited storage and do not store data in multiple nodes. Now, a MapReduce is a distributed, the MapReduce is a distributed programming paradigm, and it analyzes the records in HDFS, and it's made up of two procedures, that is map phase, that is in which mapping and sorting is done, and a reduce phase which performs the logic operation. So this was about the core components. We'll go in detail with these components. So if you're okay with the slide, you've got the slide, we can move forward to the next slide, please. Quick responses, guys. Okay, Ankit and Pratyush say yes, perfect. Ankita, Jagdish and Kutesh say yes as well. Okay, sorry. Kutesh has a question here. He asks, please repeat the slide. Okay, sure. Kutesh, actually it's nothing. It's just, this slide just tells about the Hadoop core components, that is the two main components, Hadoop distributed file system and MapReduce. Subhash has a question again. He asked, what is a MapReduce? Guys, you don't have to be worried about. When I'll move forward, your question will be answered. I'll be going forward in details about Hadoop distributed file system and MapReduce, and even with examples, we'll get to know more about these two components. So Hadoop distributed file system is where data is stored across multiple nodes. As I told, there's a cluster. Cluster again is a combination of racks, rack in which data nodes is kept. So when I move forward, you'll get to know how the data is stored in Hadoop distributed file system and what is actually the function of a MapReduce. So can we move forward, guys? Kutesh and Subhash, can we move forward? Kutesh says yes, perfect. Okay, Subhash says yes as well. Okay, so moving forward to the next slide. Hadoop distributed file system. Now here, the file is broken down into small blocks with 64 MB being the default size. These blocks are replicated across the various clusters, which is 3 by default. Now I want you to think that there is a cluster and user 1 wants to get the services from this cluster. Now there's another user that pops in and wants the same services from cluster 1, but cluster 1 is already servicing user 1, so that is why the throughput would go down. So in order to enhance the throughput, and so there's another cluster which has the replica. We created a replica with the default value 3. So this that is the other cluster will service the user 2. So now the throughput will be enhanced, and this block replication will deal with durability, high availability and throughput. So HDFS allows you to put, get and delete the files. It also follows the policy for write once and read multiple times. Now when I talk about write once and read multiple times, I talk about like in Facebook. On Facebook, I upload a picture. Now my friends can see it, I can see it, I can see the picture after 5 years as well. So I'm writing, that is I'm uploading a file once and I'm reading it multiple times. So this was about the Hadoop distributed file system. We'll see further the architecture of Hadoop distributed file system. If the basic points are clear with you, can we move forward to the next slide, please? Quick responses, guys. Okay, Jagdish says yes, perfect. Ankit and Pratyush say yes as well. Okay, Ankita, can I expect an answer from you? Subhash, Kutesh, is it okay with you? Ankit says yes, okay. Okay, Kutesh has a question. He asks, can you please explain the slide by a simple example? Kutesh, when I talk about the Hadoop distributed file system, when we'll go to the next slide, actually, you'll get to know how this is related. But as of now, I'll tell you that a particular file, when it's brought into the brought into the Hadoop distributed file system to be stored into it, the block size of 64 MB is there by default, which we can change as for our convenience. The replications again can be changed as for our convenience, but otherwise it's replicated with 3. Now when replications are made, this makes sure that whenever, in case of you lose your data or it is being used somewhere else, you can use the replica. This creates high availability, throughput and durability. When I talk about throughput is the time that is taken to service a particular user from the start to the end of a process. So it is certainly improved when the user will not have to wait. So HDFS, again, it helps to put, get and delete the files. Example will be coming in the next slides. You'll get to know better when I'll move to the next slides. Kutesh has a question again. He asks, how are the replications made? Actually, you'll get to know better, Kutesh, when you'll join the course and you'll work on it, as in you'll do it practically. But as of now, I'll tell you, for example, there are 3 replications. One is the file itself. Another file is in the same cluster, maybe on the different track. And the third file, that is the third replica, is made on a different cluster on a different track. It is just copying and pasting of the files. I hope this answers your question, Kutesh. Can we move forward, please? Quick responses, please. Kutesh has a question again. He asks, then maybe the data storage increases. A good question, Kutesh. I told you earlier, I don't want you to think that there is a limit here. In Hadoop distributed file system or in this architecture, I don't want you to think there is a limit as it was there in RDBMS. We have unlimited space and we don't have to be worried. That is why we're creating replicas, because we're not worried that it would take space. So I don't want you to think that there's a limited amount. We can add as many machines, as many data nodes, because we have unlimited space. So is it okay, Kutesh? Can we move forward now? Kutesh has a question again. He asks, why do we need to create a replica of a file? Kutesh, I guess I have answered the question. It is for the durability, the high availability and throughput. So is it okay? This answers your question, Kutesh? Okay, he says okay. So I'll move forward to the next slide, that is Hadoop distributed file system architecture. Now, this is a client. Now, this client is what? It is actually a terminal. Now, I am a user and I have a client, that is my terminal, that is a command prompt. I want to find that what is the name of the first 10 employees of the company. So I have to find the employees from 1 to 10. So I'll ask the name node to find the employees of the company, the first 10 employees of the company. The name node is what? It is a master. It has an index about what data is present in which data node. Now it actually has a metadata. Now when I talk about name node knows that which data is present in which block of a data node. It is data about data. That is which data in which data node. So it gets to know it when name node is seen. It gets to know that in block 1 we'll get the name of the first 10 employees. So it asks this data node to connect with the client, and the client is connected with the data node so that it can access to the first 10 employee names of the company. Now, what is the function of the job tracker? Job tracker takes a note of all the tasks that have to be performed and then assigns these tasks to the task tracker that looks into the completion of the task. So this was about the job tracker and the task tracker. Now coming to the secondary name node. Now secondary name node, actually it takes the snapshots of the index table of the name node. Now in the case, if it takes the snapshots like periodically, take like after 1 hour or so. In case when name node crashes, after the recovery of the name node, the image is loaded onto the name node so that it does not lose the data. This loading of image is done from the image taken from the secondary node. So guys, this was about the Hadoop distributed file system. In case of any doubts, you can please ping me. Else we'll move forward to the next slide to see further what Hadoop core components contain. Okay, Ankit wants me to repeat the slide. Okay, Ankit, sure. So Ankit, we have a client here. This client wants to have the data from Hadoop distributed file system. Now Hadoop distributed file system has a name node and the data node. You heard me hearing that a particular cluster has racks. Racks have data nodes. These data nodes have blocks again, and these blocks have the data. Now the name node actually it looks for the data node which has a particular data, ask this data node to connect to the client so that it gets the data. But in case of any update function or any other function that has to be performed, this is done by the job tracker. Job tracker again being the master and task tracker being the slave doing the job performance function. Secondary name node is one that takes a snapshot of the metadata, that is the data about the data for the name node. In case when name node fails, the image that it took, the snapshot it took is again taken from secondary node to the name node. I hope this is okay with you, Ankit. Kutesh has a question. He asks how name node and secondary node get connected. Kutesh, again, I want you to think that we are dealing here with the cluster. Cluster has racks and racks has nodes. Out of them, one there is a name node. So you don't have to consider the name node and the secondary node how they get connected. That is a core technical and core hardware part. As of now, you just need to understand the basic architecture. When you join the course, you will be going into details for the same, and then you can understand it better. As of now, you have to understand the architecture. How does Hadoop distributed file system work? Okay, perfect. So guys, can we move forward with the next slide so that we can see further the core components? Quick responses, please. Okay, Ankita, Jagdish, Subhash, Pratyush. Yeah, Ankita, I didn't get any answer from you. Can we move forward? Okay, I'll move forward to the next slide talking about map reduce flow. Now, this is HDFS that we talked about. Now, all the files from HDFS, they are divided into chunks. You can see here chunk 1 and chunk 2. From this, it goes into the map phase, where in the map phase, reading a file, mapping a file, and combination, that is combination of file is done, and an intermediate data is stored into the local storage. So the data from the local storage is sent to the reduce phase. Now in the reduce phase, copying of the file, sorting of the file, and reduction of the file is done, that is reducing to get the data, and later the data is stored again into the HDFS. So this was about the map reduce flow. The next slide will give you an example which will help you to tell how this actually works. So as of now, can we move forward to the next slide? Subhash has a question, why do we need two chunks? Subhash, it's not about two chunks. We can divide into any number of chunks. This one, chunk 1 and chunk 2, is just to give an explanation, a representation. We normally divide, when we'll go to the next slide, you'll see that we'll divide it into 3 chunks. This has been done in order to get better results, because when we divide into smaller bits, in a better way, the data can be analyzed and thus getting satisfying results. So I hope this answers your question, Subhash. Okay, Jagdish has a question again. He asks, does chunk mean 2 separate job programs? It is not job program actually. It is, I want you to think that there's a file. Let me go to the next slide, and Jagdish, your answer will be, your question will be answered. You will get to know better, in a better way. Okay, thank you. Kutesh has a question. He asks, what basis we chunk the data? Kutesh, normally the data is chunked line by line, a particular line. The next, I'm again saying the next slide will answer your question, because it is based on this only, that how does a particular file is chunked, how it is reduced. All your question will be answered in the next slide. Okay. Subhash has a question. He asks, this mean transferring or send the data? I'm not able to get you, Subhash. Sending a data in a multiple way. You are not actually sending a data, you're just making it pass through different phases. You're not sending a data anywhere. It's just that the HDFS, the data is passing through different phases. It is going through different logical operations in order to get a particular result. So I hope this is okay, Subhash. Can we move forward to the next slide so that you can get a better insight of what is it? Okay, perfect. So I'll move forward to the next slide, which talks about now this is the MapReduce framework. Now MapReduce framework, here is an example that will solve and clear all your doubts. Now I want you to think this is as a file. Now this file is divided into 3 chunks, and this is done line by line. That is chunk 1, chunk 2, chunk 3. Chunk 1 having again a cycle, train and car, that is this first one, second one and third one. Normally it is done line by line. Now this chunk goes into the map phase. Now in mapping, it is in the form of key and a value. Now key is a unique item, for example cycle here, and value is a number of repetitions for this value. Now I would want to tell you that a problem statement here is to find the number of transportation, particular transportation, like how many cycles are present, how many trains are present, how many cars are present, and how many buses are present. We have divided into 3 chunks, and then we move to the map phase. When we move to the map phase, we have a key value pair. The key, that is a unique item, and the value, that is number of repetitions, are the value. For example, cycle, just one cycle is there, so value 1. Now train has one, train 1, car 1 again. Now train, for the second chunk, we see train 1 again, car 1, bus 1. Cycle, we have cycle 1, bus 1, train 1. Now we move to the sorting phase. Now in this phase, the complete map data is read and the values with similar keys are merged, and that is done in the form of a key and an array. Now key here will be cycle. Now we'll be obtaining data and we'll make an array, that is cycle 1, 1. Now the second one, that is train. So it comes from train from here, from the second and the third. So we have train 1, 1, 1. Now car comes from only 2 of them, so it is car 1, 1. Now bus comes from 2 again, so bus, that is the key, and array has value 1, 1. Now we move forward to the reduce phase. Now we had a problem statement asking for the number of transportation, particular transportation. So we here have to perform a logic operation. For example, a cycle. Cycle, how many cycles? We see the array has value 1, 1. So we do a logic operation 1 plus 1, that is 2. Now we have a train here. Now we do the logical operation 1 plus 1 plus 1, that is 3. Now car here is 1 plus 1, that is 2, and bus again 1 plus 1, bus, that is bus comma 2. And in the end we get a file with results cycle 2, train 3, car 2 and bus 2. So the map reduce works by breaking the process into two phases, that is the map phase and the reduce phase. So this was about the map reduce framework. This is how it works. So if you have any doubt, you can please write, else we'll move forward to the next slide. Jagdish has a question. He asked, can you give me a real-time example of MapReduce how works in Flipkart or eBay? Sure, Jagdish, I'll give you just a second and we'll move forward to a particular practical example. Ankita and Ankita say yes. Okay. Ankita, sorry, has a question. She asked, what does S stand for? Ankita, the map phase is divided into two parts, that is the mapping and the sorting phase, and S stands for the sorting phase. I hope this is okay with you. Okay, Subhash has a question. Once, can you explain me in briefly how to make map in this structure? Yeah, sure, Subhash. Map actually is made with two things, that is a key and a value pair. Key is a unique value, that is a unique thing. Unique thing, for example, cycle here. Then how many repetitions of cycle? We can see if it was cycle, another cycle here. So we would have written, that is cycle, train, car and again cycle. So we would have written cycle comma 2. So this is how we do mapping and making key value pairs. I hope this is okay. Can we move forward to the real-time example? Subhash, quick response please. Subhash, we're waiting for you. Can we move forward? He asks, Subhash has a question. We have to map same like cycle to cycle only. You don't have to map cycle to cycle. Cycle is mapped to 1. That is, cycle has only 1 repetition. Cycle comes for only 1 time. After this, the map data is read in the sorting phase. I hope this is okay, Subhash. Perfect. So I'll move forward and now we'll see the real-time example. Now guys, Amazon, I told you, gives you know the Amazon gives you servers to the users so that they can work on their own data set. It also provides the case when it is provides its own data set and own program, that is the code. Now Amazon is a collection, Amazon Web Services is a collection of a remote computing service, also known as a web service, that together make up a cloud computing platform offered over the internet by Amazon.com. You were asking to give a real-time example. Now we'll deal with a real-time example. I'll give you a live demonstration to show you how MapReduce framework works. We'll see a case where the data set is given by Amazon and the code is given by Amazon, the code for the map and the reduce thing. So you can create as well an account on Amazon. This is a free account and this is free for a year for some amount of data. So here we'll be considering the Amazon EC2 and Amazon S3. Amazon EC2, again, as I told you, is Elastic Compute Cloud, and Amazon S3 is a simple storage service. So starting with the real time example so that you will get to know how this map thing works. And the problem statement here is to calculate. They have this data set somewhere there, and this data set we have to calculate number of A's, number of AA's, and so on, a long list. So moving to Amazon Web Services, and I'll go to the Amazon Cloud Computing Services. Now I go to my account. Okay, just a second. Amazon Web Services, and I go to Amazon Cloud Computing. This page is in different language, so I asked it to translate it for me. So now it has been translated. I go to my account. Now my account, as I told you, you can sign in. It is a free account for a year for few amount of data. So we have our account made, so I'll log in into it. Okay, I'll just log in. I'm really sorry guys for the glitch, maybe because of the slow network. Okay, so I'll go here to I've logged into my account, and I'll go to the console home, and I'll go to S3. I'll go to S3 and I'll create a bucket here. I'll create a bucket here. I'll name it as now I'll go to my account again, and I'll go to the security credentials. And now I'll continue to security credentials and go to the access keys. Now by default guys, only two can be made active. So I delete one of them, and I'll click create new access key and download this key file. I close this dialog box. Now I'll go to console home again, and I go to EC2. I look for EC2, I go to EC2, and now at the top you can see that there's an option for key pairs. I'll go to the key pairs and click on create key pair. I name the key pair learn, easy learn, and I create it. Now this seems to have downloaded. Now I go to the console home again and click on Elastic MapReduce. Look for Elastic MapReduce. I click here and I create a cluster here. I'll go to Configure Sample Application and select Sample Application as word count, the bucket name as EasyLearn, and I'll select the logging as the one I made. I select it and I'll press OK. Now I'll go and I'll say and click create cluster. Now you can see it says cluster word count starting. Now this may take a bit of time, so I'll show you what would be the output when this is being made. I'll go to S3 and I'll open for example 21st August Yansha. Now you can see here that there are two files. This first one is the log file and the second one will give us the output. It says word count. I'll go to output. Then I'll further keep on clicking. And we see here there are 4 files. The first file says success, which is of 0 bytes. Now 0 bytes means the program has run successfully. The output has come in 3 files, which is part 00000, part 00001 and part 00002. Now I'll show you the output by downloading one of them. Now I'll click download and I'll wait for it to get downloaded. So when we open this in Notepad, we see the result. Now this was the result that was expected. A comes for 14,716 times. Similarly, AA comes for 52 times. Abandonment comes for 6 times. So this was the actual result that was expected. So guys, this was the real-time example that dealt with the map reduce operation, that did the logic operation. So I hope this real-time example is clear with you. So can we move forward, winding up our session? Quick responses, guys. Pratyush says yes, perfect. Jagdish says okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Kute says hope understood. Okay. So Ankita, Ankur, Subhash, I'm expecting answers, please. Ankita, can you please respond? Subhash? Can we move forward, winding up our session? Subhash says he didn't get the output. Okay, Subhash, it's nothing, it's just it's telling that the data set that was provided by Amazon Web Services had they wrote a code that was not visible to us, but they wrote a code in which A came for 14,716 times, AKAR came for 3 times, and as like that. There are 3 cases actually. This is the first case where the data is given by them and the data set is given by them and the code is given by them. There are other 2 cases where data set is of the user and the code is given by the Amazon. The third case is when the data set is of the user and the code is of the user. So this was the first case. The other 2 cases will be we will be explaining when you join the course. So this was about it. So I hope this is okay. So can we move forward, Subhash? He asks it's printing how much we want, right? No, Subhash, it's actually the data set. The whatever data was present, which was given by Amazon, had it, consisted of it. We have done nothing. We just used it, and it was a real-time example just to show what is actually MapReduce doing. It was nothing regarding what we wanted. It was given by Amazon. It was coded by Amazon people. It was the data set was given by Amazon. Okay, Subhash, is that okay with you? Okay. He says he understood a little. You don't have to worry about it. After joining the course, you'll get to know each and everything about this Amazon. You'll be able to do it yourself. So you don't have to be worried about it. So guys, what we offer is lifetime LMS Learning Management System access, on-demand support, easylearning.guru certification, easy and on-demand rescheduling of classes. In any case you want your classes should be rescheduled, you can just call us or mail us, and your class will be set up with your trainer. Doubt clearing session, we understand that it is important that your doubts should be cleared. So our support team will take care that your as much as possible doubts are cleared. And all our instructors are Cloudera certified. So this is the syllabus for the course, including introduction, big data and Hadoop. Hadoop includes HDFS and MapReduce. Pig consisting of Pig 1 and Pig 2. Pig 1 having the theoretical session, and Pig 2 having the hands-on session. Hive and consisting Hive 1 and Hive 2. Hive 1 having the theoretical session, and Hive 2 again the practical hands-on session. HBase, Zookeeper, Scoop, Yarn are the other parts in the syllabus. At the end, we'll be doing a project class. That would be the project class will actually we'll be providing you with data set, and you'll be dealing with the practical life, real-time example, real-time project. Actually, you will be putting your theoretical knowledge to practical use. So you can please contact us on phone number, email ID, or through Skype ID. Our website www.easylearning.guru. Your queries are always welcome, guys, and we hope for a fruitful association with you. So thank you so much for watching the live demo for Hadoop. So thank you so much. Subhash wants to know my name and ID. Subhash, my name is Vrinda, as I told you, and ID, you can just contact us if you have any you want any information regarding the course or so. So I hope it's okay. I have already shown you the contact, phone number, email ID. I hope it's okay with you. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody.